You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sharice Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hey everyone, this is episode 70 and I have an absolutely delicious guest for you today, all the way from the US, and her energy is rich and vibrant, and I'm so excited to introduce to you Eva Simone. Hi Eva.
Good morning. I woke up this morning super excited about feeling your energy this morning. And before I even said hello to you, I felt you deep at my soul. You are a beautiful woman, and I can't wait to share the story of who I am and how I came on this journey. Hello to the world around. I can't wait for us to impact you in the most beautiful, delicious way. Because one thing I know for sure, every woman has a delicious side if she just allows it and gives herself permission to be embodied and the permission to shine.
Yeah.
Welcome. Hello.
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And it's so wonderful to have you here. So, could you tell the listeners exactly where you are in the world?
Oh, I love to. I'm in the United States. Currently, I'm in North Carolina. North Carolina right now is a green space. It's starting to get a little bit cold, but North Carolina is beautiful for my soul right now. It's beautiful for my soul's evolution.
No, I
I'm
love
loving it
that.
here.
No, I love that so much. And I really feel since I've embarked on my healing journey, obviously developed so much in that space, that I'm so much more drawn to nature. So the green spaces that you're speaking about, I don't know if you've probably heard of Glastonbury, but I went there in the summer and it is just green all round. It's actually the heart chakra of the earth. So there I had some beautiful awakenings around all of this real divine feminine energy, which I feel like you're exuding at the moment, which is so lovely to be around. But please tell us about your journey into finding this space, because I know for sure that as women, it's kind of almost tapped out of us as we get older, that we can't be in this energy. So there must be a shift in your story that allowed you to become this version of yourself. So please, the floor is yours. Divulge into your story with us.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Well, my story, I'll go back to when I was a little girl. At the core of me, I am a feminine woman. But somehow along the way, that was taken from me. The world, work, the energy of getting it done. When money is in the wrong place, we women can go on this journey of just hustling. And I had no idea that I had to understand. I needed to understand that that part of me that I was pushing further down into the dirt, back into Mother Earth, is the part that was so true to me. That masculine side of me was not my truth. It was actually hurting me. It was hurting my body. It was hurting my soul. It was hurting my heart. It was hurting my relationships. It was hurting everything that was dear to me. And I was like, oh no, something has to give here. One time I was in New York. I did a lot of work in New York City, and I was walking, and I think it was Broad on Broadway, and I was walking, and there was this woman. She was walking through the crowd, and it was almost like the crowd parted for her. I was like, who is that? And whoever that is, I want that. I was like, I don't have that. I don't have whatever it is, this energy around her. I could just feel her. I wanted to follow her around and find out, what do you have that I don't have? And why are people like moving out of the way for you from you? And I just stopped and almost held my breath to pay attention to her. And what I realized was I had it too. I just didn't know how to tap into it. It wasn't until I had a big aha. And that aha was, oh, my face to the ground in tears. I called it the dark night of the soul, where I was like scratching the floor in agony. Like, oh, wow, why am I going through this? What's happening to me? What's everything that I know so close to me and dear to me? Maybe it's not true. Maybe all of these things that I was believing about what wasn't true. And if it is true, why does my soul hurt so much right now? Why do I need to um why do I need to cry so hard? Why do I need to sit in silence for so long? Why am I looking at everybody in a whole different way? What the fuck is happening to me right now? I had no idea that I was coming back home to the beauty of me. That juiciness that I saw in this woman who was walking through the street was what my soul was calling for me. I had to pull up all of those layers. I had to look at myself differently. I had to look at everything that I thought was true and get on a whole different trajectory. I had to point my vector and my GPS in a whole different way. Because what was happening, Charisse? I was over here before that big awakening. I was drowning in my own shit, drowning in my own thoughts, drowning in what I thought life should be. I was in a program that was no longer suiting my soul. And girl, when I came back home to my body, to my soul, to my heart, to my mind, and everything came back to me that was right for me, life became so easy. I started to understand everything. I started to see through people. I started to just understand where I was. And the person that I was becoming was home to me. I was no longer disconnected. What about you? What was your journey for shining?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like there's a common thread between one, the guests I have on my show, but the women that I meet in my, whether it be clients or, friendships. And we've all had a similar story of there's just one moment where we realize we can't do this anymore. And I think for me, obviously, as I said to you at the beginning, I was a professional dancer for 11 years in constant force, and I developed that toxic masculine energy force as survival mode because I didn't realize that I'd experienced so much childhood trauma. So as a defense mechanism, I wore all these armors and kept putting them on layers and layers, carrying actually the weight of other people's emotions as well as my own, not realizing I could put them down. And by the end of the pandemic, well, when the pandemic hit, that was when I actually had to stop. So all the time I was running 100 miles an hour, 3 or 4 jobs a day, all over the country, all over the world. And then boom, pandemic hits. And I don't know who I am because guess what? I built my life and my identity around my job role and not who I am. So that coming home to yourself, that was when everything crumbled. And did it crumble? I fell down the stairs of my family home that I'd lived in my whole life. And I just cried for like 20 whole minutes. And that was the first time I'd allowed myself to fully just release. And it was just like a whirlwind. And it's so funny now because there's so many ailments that I had before that moment in my life continuously because I'd been suppressing, like you said, suppressing. So my body was trying to give me inklings of like, this isn't how it should be. This is not how we should feel. Even down to recently, I was doing some research on libido. I had none. That's why I didn't really date anyone for so long because I just had no want for any of that. I was just numb to feeling completely. So when the pandemic hit and I realized that I need to do some work here, everything just started to fall into alignment to allow me to be able to do it, because the universe is like, oh, she's woken up now, she's listening. So then all of the research I was doing around, I went to do my master's because I thought, what else do you do in the pandemic? You've got nothing to do. So all the research I was doing was around dance and movement and how it supports mental health and well-being. And then the case studies were all like a reflection of my childhood. And I was like, why did those kids get put into care for that? And then gradually over time, I was like, ah, okay, what I went through wasn't normal and it was really hard. And I had to mourn that version of me and allow my inner child
Yes.
to be seen in that time. So for me, giving myself the permission meant putting down my ego and saying thank you for getting me here, because I had some really great moments in my career that did feel empty, but I survived, and I'm grateful to my ego for allowing me to do that. But the permission was allowing my soul to lead. So now,
Oh,
everything comes from this deep rooted place of
yes.
knowing, and even down to, when I teach confidence or, embodiment, empowerment, all of those things, it comes from that rich embodied place. So everything I'm
Yes.
doing now is rooted in, the depths of the earth, but also who I am. So there's no external confidence that people see that I don't feel like I was. Like I used an analogy in a talk that I did a little while ago about a glass house. I feel like it was shiny on the outside, but inside was hollow and it could break at any moment. That was what my
Yes.
confidence was. Now it is a tree. I'm so rooted into who I am and leading from that place of, like you said, home. That is just, yeah, I'm so deeply in that space. And I think, isn't it beautiful to be here?
Yes, it's so beautiful. And I would love to add to that because that's so beautiful. You even, I thought my heart was really open and it is, but you just opened me up even more. I just felt myself going, yes,
Oh, I
yes, girl,
love that.
yes, yes. But here's the other side of it. When you do come back home, it can trigger a lot of people.
A hundred
It
percent.
can, it can trigger people and people, oh boy, people will see you as who does she think she is? And it will make them become uncomfortable. They will talk about you, they will say all of these things, they will behave in a certain way, but I don't hold that against them
Mm,
because I used to be that.
yeah.
I used to be that. I could not see that I could have this life, these energies, this bigness to integrate into this delicious woman. So when I have this reflection back to me from other people, I just see it as what it is. And I still hold myself like a tree because all it takes is for one person to be in her truth, fully embodied, moving forward in the most delicious way. It starts to wake people up around you. It starts to
Absolutely.
wake people up. And people
Mm,
in the beginning, you are the person, not you, but the person at first rejects you. They're in this negative energy, but you just keep shining. It's waking people up. You keep snapping and being the delicious person that you are. And all of a sudden, one by one, a person starts
mm,
to shift a little. And when you can get a person to shift a little, especially a woman, you are doing a job for humanity that is so beautiful, so magnificent. You are aligned to who you are.
yeah.
And to me, that's life's work. That is my
Mm,
work. What
I
about
agree.
you?
Exactly the same thing. I always say it's like a ripple in the ocean that keeps spreading further and
Mhm.
further. So exactly the same thing. And it's so wonderful because I always say to my clients that this has impacted my healing journey, has impacted my whole family. And my trauma is generational. And I've been able to break
Yes,
a cycle in my
yes,
family through being this version of me. And
yes,
already my family have all started to change the current. So we're now
yes,
all paddling in the same direction. No one's pulling anyone back. It's like something has changed on a massive scale already. And even in my clients' lives, there's just beautiful moments that are happening for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I never would have access this, if you hadn't shown me that, or it hadn't allowed me to feel this, and that is exactly it. We are literally changing the world in such a beautiful way. Funny enough, my mentor, she's spiritual mentor, and we speak about how the rise of the feminine is happening energetically across the world. And we're coming into 5D consciousness and all these wonderful things. But female entrepreneurs are going to be the leaders of this movement. And that's why our work is so important. But for anyone listening, like I talk about female leadership, and female leadership is just being the leader of your own life, right? It's just taking
Yes.
your life and saying, I'm not doing that anymore because it doesn't work. So really and
Yes.
truly for you, what was that? I know you've gave me the overview of the permission to shine moment, but what was that one thought in your head that was like that? I give myself permission now to be fully in that.
Well, I was like, my body doesn't feel good any other way. It
Mm,
doesn't, it feels like I'm living someone else's life. I am
yes.
living a lie. I'm not speaking a truth that feels good to my heart and my soul. Why
Mm,
do I feel weird when I need to say something, but I don't? Why do I feel weird if I am in a situation that does not align to me? So I started to connect with that feeling. And I would ask myself, if this feels weird, what doesn't? And if
mm,
there is a thing that doesn't feel weird, that is right for me, because all of it is data, right? It's data. The problem that I had in the past is that my intuition was wounded. I didn't
mm,
have the ability to really trust that what was being told to me within my body was a truth. Now, here's the other part of that. Our body is talking to us most of the time, but we have to distinguish between what's a truth from a higher level of consciousness and what's a hidden program from a lower level of consciousness.
mm.
So we have to be able to recognize what is true. And I think you only can get there when you really step out and then step in.
Yeah.
Yes. And it wasn't until I stepped out of the program and stepped into my soul, to what my soul was saying. And girl, when I did that, ooh, the world starts to part for me. The
Mm.
world starts to part for me. And that I wish for every woman. But she cannot get there if she is holding the energy of generational trauma. She can't.
Absolutely that. I completely agree with you on everything you said there. And I think that's something that I really emphasize to women all the time about our intuition. Like we always have that gut feeling, don't we, as well, that something isn't
Yes.
right, but we go through it anyway because we think, oh, well, maybe I'll try it this way again, or maybe I'll just see, which, it's important to trial and error, absolutely. But when your whole body is physically reacting in a negative way to something, that is a full body no. And I think the more
Yes.
that we can tune into that and actually find what the full body yes feels like, the more we're going to be able to discern what is right or wrong for us. But as we said, so many women have lived in autopilot. They haven't allowed
Yes.
themselves to trust themselves to make the right choice. And I think that's such a big part of the women that come into my world. They just don't know how to trust themselves. And I think that that is because they've been told how to live life and not
Yes.
actually figured it out for themselves, right? So I love that when you said you had to step out of yourself to step back in, because it's the shedding, isn't it? It's like the autumn, you're
Yes.
allowing the leaves to fall off to come back home to you and to grow anew in a beautiful way. So I love that so much. I'd say in your practice with you spoke about your morning routine to me, and I love like some form of routine. I like to call it a ritual actually. So
Yes.
yeah, if you'd like to talk through kind of like how you set yourself up for the day and how you close the day, embodying all this deliciousness, like how does that look for you?
Okay, beautiful. So it's been, I change my rituals all the time. And I change them so that I can recognize when I'm in a program because even now I'm in a program. Even getting to this level is a program. It's like one foot in one world, another foot in another world to get to that next space. And because I'm always going to my next level, and that could be in another 5 minutes, you've already opened me up to something else. So I'm already in this new level of deliciousness. But for currently and for now, and I do something that's called my victory power delicious hour. And before anyone else, I'm tapping into the things that make me feel more delicious. This morning it was Pilates. I was working on my sacred areas and my womb space and holding my abdomen in a certain way, the muscles around that area, and working on that. So that was a part of my morning. And then after that, I sat in with deep reflection. Who am I becoming? Am I aligned to it? What of, I call it my little girl, the little girl Eva, what is she afraid of? What needs to come up so that I can work with it? I can work with her. I don't work against her anymore. She's a part of my intuitive side. So I tap into her and say, what are you afraid of today, honey? What do we need to work with? What do we need to work through? What is a new thought process for her to understand so that she can come with me? Because here's what I know to be true. If you don't calm her down, she can wreck everything for you. She can make everything go crazy because she's scared. And when you're going to your next level, you have to let her know that there's not going to be any fear at this table. So
Mm.
calm down and you treat her with love and respect and you ask her what does she need right now. She in this morning, because I have some really big projects, she wanted to know, are we going to be okay?
Mm.
Like she wanted to know, are we going to be okay? So that feminine side of me was nurturing to her. But I don't shut out the masculine side either, because that masculine side is still needed. That masculine side, where I did get it done in the past and in the present, and will continue to get it done in the future, that masculine side holds the container, has the structure, is doing all of the things, while the feminine side is nurturing me at the same time, because I wasn't nurturing myself the way that I needed to for that little girl inside of me. And then I do something that's intellectual, or I tap into an energy of a person like I did with you this morning. And it's a beautiful practice. So when I start my morning, and before I usually speak to my assistant at 7 a.m., as soon as I start talking to her, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Because I'm in an energy, I've already been nourished. I've already
Mm.
set my course. I've already turned my internal thermometer to 100% instead of being on ice cold or frozen or in the negative. I'm fulfilled. I'm ready. What about you?
Yes, I love that so much. And I think you hit a really important nail on the head there that I talk about a lot. And the inner child piece is so important. And I think that, I like to use the analogy of how a 2-year-old tantrums in the supermarket and she's like banging on the floor and she's screaming. That's like what your inner child has been doing for ages to just see her, right? And I
Like,
think
look at
that
me, look at me.
yeah, that's it. And like pulling you down and making you aware, like, and a lot of the time we're leading from that wounded inner child space. So sometimes when we're overindulging, that's our inner child saying to us, well, we didn't get to have all these sweets when we were younger. So let's eat all the sweets now and give ourselves a bellyache as an adult, because that's what happens, right? So it's
It's so
such an
true. It's so
important
true.
thing. But I love that you're doing that every day, before you start your day as well. But I think a lot of the women that I come into my world, they don't even know how to do that. So I think it's lovely that you found a way to be able to build a relationship with your inner child, to be able to speak to her every day. I think that's such a lovely thing. And especially, like you said, with a masculine energy combination, that's such a nice, like yin and yang space, isn't it? So then, like you
Yes.
said, you're moving forward from a balanced energy, which is so lovely. I mean, I definitely don't get up as early as you do, but that's because I listen to my body and know that that doesn't work for me. And I feel like I'm
Right.
a night owl, so I feel like I can stay up later but equally still have my rituals that I do. So
Yes.
first thing in the morning, I meditate straight away. So I connect all of my chakras down into the earth and up and just realign myself so I'm ready and energetically prepared. And then I just journal in the morning. So whatever comes up for me that I need to address. So it
Yes.
can be my inner child, it can be thoughts of the day, even dreams. I just allow all of that to offload. So then I'm moving through my day without being clogged up. I like to say it's like,
Yes.
you know, internet browser being so busy because you've got so many tabs open, it's clearing all of that out. So I go into the day with just a completely clean slate. And then I do a little
Yes.
bit of movement. So whether that's normally, actually, to be honest, I do like a couple of sun salutations from yoga. That kind of gets me moving.
Yes.
Do some somatic shakeouts and releases. And then
Yes.
yeah, I just kind of crystal up. So I wear my crystal jewelry and just set my intentions with that for the day. And that's kind of how I get going. So my morning is shorter, but I like to have slow mornings. So I like to allow enough time to ease in. I think today I was a little bit more faster paces in, like I had my morning routine and then I had to dive straight into meetings, which was fine because again, I set myself up. So I'm moving from a space of feeling whole before I begin, but I
Yes.
am in my cycle at the moment as well. So I like to honor the fact that I'm in that space and I have to move differently that way. So I have to give myself more rest, you know, more nurture with teas and water and all of the things. And then my evening routine looks similar, but I add more in. So I have more somatic exercises that I do to release again stored trauma that's been in my body for 30 something years, you know.
Yes.
Um, and all of that. So yeah, I very much base my life around ritual because I think that, like you said, that's that nurture piece. And it's also that reconnection to all the parts of me. Because I think that when we are just existing, we are moving from hollow energy. Whereas
Yes.
for me, everything I do now is about holistic. So I want to feel whole. So all the parts of me are coming with me through every stage. And obviously, the parts that don't need to come anymore are the wounded spaces or, you know,
Yes.
the old storylines. I'm able to shed those each day because I've tapped into what feels right and what doesn't need to be part of the story. Like you said about the programming, I feel like there's a lot of old programming that you have to keep like tuning into, don't you? Like almost like the dial on a
Yes.
radio. It's like, oh, does that feel right now to keep feeling that way? And I think that's the beauty of self-awareness, isn't it? Is that you're able to
Yes.
say, okay, that story served that purpose for that process in time. It doesn't anymore, and it's okay to let it go. But again, that in itself is a journey, right? And we have to be kind to ourselves with that. But I think the first stage of that is absolutely the self-awareness piece. So yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Oh, it's so true. And it's so beautiful to hear your routine. And because some people are morning people, some people are midday people, some people are night people. And you have to honor yourself and your cycle and your circadian rhythm and what works for you because there's no way possible that I could stay up at night and do certain things. I would be sleeping on the job and doing all these things. So know thyself. And when you know
Mm,
thyself, that's so beautiful. But for the programming, the programs from that space of when you were a child with your parents, and I was talking to my son the other day about the first people that you learn from are your parents or your mom, your dad, or whomever you're living with. The next line of not the sex, the next line of people would be people at your school, though your friends, your teachers, that environment. If you're in religions, your church, all of those things are making you who you are over the
mm,
years. And then one day you realize, I don't like what I was taught. I don't want to do that. No, I have opinions of my own, but I don't know my opinions because I've been listening to other people for so long. I don't know who I am. And it took me longer than it should have to know who I was. It's almost as if I took the long way back home to myself. And these spaces that we are creating as female entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, we are helping individuals come back to themselves much quicker.
mm,
And to me, that is so beautiful because it allows us to have that open conversation, not be judgmental about our journey, to say what it feels like to be us, how it feels to be free, that sovereignty of knowing what we like. Sometimes you need to go on a 21-day fast of everybody's opinions and just
Mm.
listen to yourself and see what you want. You may not want to have chocolate milk today. You might want to have strawberry milk. You might want to have cheese on your omelet instead of, I don't know, spinach. But you've been eating spinach on it for so long, you don't even know anything else. So taking that time to recognize when you're overpowered by other people's energies and opinions and decisions, and recognize who you are. And that's what I do with embodiment is everything. It is a space where I really feel that when I'm in my truth and that power comes through me, and I'm getting people to be aware of themselves, it's a light bulb that goes on. It's that powerhouse embodiment of, oh, why am I doing that? Why am I behaving that way? That's usually what I get from people.
Mm.
Yeah, I, why? I've been doing that for 20 years, but I don't know why. There's a funny joke that was told to me one time that there was a grandmother who was cooking for the holidays a pot roast, a piece
I
of
know this
beef.
one. It's really
Do
good.
you know this one?
Yeah, say
And
it.
yeah, and she was cutting it in half and she was putting it in the oven, and two pieces were in two different containers. I'm not sure if this is the same story. And the other children or the grandchildren or whomever was asking, Mima, why are you putting two pot roasts? Why are you cutting it in half? She was like, well, it was too big to go into the oven, and I wanted to make sure that it was able to cook a certain way. And here's another family with the state of the art ovens that's huge and large, and they're still cutting it in half. Nobody ever asked a question of why we do what we do. And as a little girl, I was big on questions, and questions always got me in trouble because I was told that kids should be seen and not heard. And so from that place, I was always afraid to say or ask whatever it is I wanted to ask. But questions, when you ask the right question, you can move out of a program. So I know how to ask the right questions. And because of that, I can help people in a beautiful way.
No, that's so beautiful. And I loved all of that as well. And I thought, as you were speaking, I was wondering about your journey and how you came back to yourself. Did you have your son at that point, or was this before you'd had your son? Because I'd be interested in seeing the shift in how they responded to you changing, like in that way.
Yes, I had already had my son, and but I'll be honest with you, my I was married before, I'd gone through a divorce, but I recognize some of my marriage broke down because of the masculinity that I was experiencing. I
Mm,
didn't know how to bring that deliciousness to the marriage at that time. So that person who came into my life was beautiful for me at the time.
yeah.
And I thank him for the time that he was in my life, beautiful time in my life. But I was like this because one thing we know for sure, when you come to a relationship and you come to a relationship with a masculine man and you're in too much of masculinity, girl, what
Hmm.
do you expect? You expect two
Absolutely.
people to be at each other's throats because
Hmm.
masculine people do masculine things.
Yeah.
So I had to really look at me before I could look at anybody else and say, what do I need to do so that I don't bring this to my next relationship? And when I really settle into all of that thinking, I was able to help my son to process his emotions, to process what
Mm,
was going on. So, again, like you said earlier, when you take the time to do the inner work, you will heal generations. And that's so
mm,
beautiful. That's so
yes.
beautiful.
I love that so much. And I felt that that might have been a situation because I feel like that's something that I've met myself prior to my healing journey over and over again was that exact thing. And actually, even in the midst of my healing journey and coming out the sort of other end, just even a little bit, I noticed that there's still some debris of it left in my body, and it's taken a lot of work. And I think this is why we have to have the rituals in place because there's always fine tuning to
Oh,
the next
yes.
level self, right? And I think that this is why healing isn't linear. It's like we have to continue to do, and we're always going to do it because there's always another level, right? And you said something
Yes.
similar at the beginning, which was so lovely. But I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit more about what it is you do fully in your work and how people can connect with you. So, yeah, dive in to tell us about that.
So I do many things in my work, but I do one-to-one coaching. I do challenges. I do um, courses where women, if they don't want to work with me one-to-one, but that one-to-one is so beautiful because I am the mirror in the moment of what the client is going through. I mirror back to them in the most beautiful, awakening way of what's happening. And that's a juicy space because when you are with me full time and you have my attention, it's a really quick way to get through your journey, and you can recognize, oh, right, oh, I can see where I'm at. So I love that space. So I have a 1 year space. We're starting an academy the beginning of the year. That's a 12 and a 6 month access. I also do masterminds where I meet with powerful women like yourself, and we talk real. It could be an intimate group of 6 to 10 people, and we talk deeply, and it's a sacred space, and we move through lots of things through each other, and that's beautiful. I have a challenge that's starting tomorrow where it's called the Rich Girl Money Magnet, and we're talking about how abundance is one thing, money is a part of abundance, and all of these things, and how being in this broke down mentality is what stops us from having a rich, delicious life. And for your richness may be something totally different from my richness. And I help women just come back home to clearing up and to cleaning that energy of negativity and lack and scarcity that is trapped in our bodies and our hearts and our tummies and our backs and our necks and our faces and our everything in our voices, and to come back to the richness of who we are. And that starts tomorrow. Thank you for asking.
No, I love that so much. And when you're talking, and actually even just the way you look, the imagery of my when you speak is like velvet. I don't know,
Oh,
there's just
really?
velvet energy around you, which is just, and I feel
Oh,
like for me that feels like indulgent, like richness. Like you use these words a lot, which I love, by the way. They are my favorite words to use when I talk about abundance and fulfillment and prosperity. It's like these beautiful words, and I think saying to someone that is your life rich is such a nice question to ask because as you said, like abundance can be more than money. And I think that was
mhm.
something that I wasn't aware of before. And I think that in this healing journey space, I've become really aware of how abundant my life truly is,
Yes.
and
Oh my
just,
God.
living in that more, soaking up that more. And I think that we get so caught up in the numbers and the tangible thing that we forget about everything else around us. And I think that the healing spaces and the feminine spaces really encourage us to just be, right? That's the feminine's way, is
Yes.
just to be.
Yes. And be so appreciative of what you get and what you have. I remember one time I was going through a drive-through, and there was a family, I don't know how many people were in the car. And I said something, I just had this feeling to come through me and said, pay for everything that they're asking for. And I was
Mm.
like, pay for everything they're asking for? And I said, okay, I'm just going to follow this intuitive side of me. I'm going to pay for everything that they're asking for. And they ordered, I was side by side with them, and I whispered to the guy who was taking my order, I said, tell the person that it's on me. I never felt so deeply like fulfilled.
Mm.
When the mother, and I'm assuming it was the mother, sorry, turned around and looked at me. She said, wait, you paid for this? And I said, yes. And the tears just poured through her
Mm.
eye, from her body. And I'm tearing up now just thinking about it. And I just got really teary, but I'm so happy that my resources became their resources.
Mm.
Over the years, people have given me so much, so much. And it's my time. It's my time to shine in that way, to give back to people. And that's what my work is about, giving back to people in an abundant way. But there's also things, and this is one thing we spiritual entrepreneurs don't always get right. We give, and it's easy for us to give, but our abundance also comes back in the form of payment,
Mm.
in the form of people seeing us because we see ourselves as valuable. A number is a number. Our energy is what people are paying for. So when we hold this space and we say, and you say that we have these beautiful things that are for sale, or these offerings, or that is something that a person can buy, we hold the energy around it because it's coming from a place that the universe knows that our life's work also should be compensated for. And that's a beautiful thing. So we hold beautiful energy around our work too.
Yeah, definitely. I love all of that. And that story was so lovely. And I welled up as well with that as well, because it is just the most loveliest thing to give without anything in return. Like I've definitely not to that extent, but I've always fed the homeless and things like that. So I understand.
Yes.
But from this space now, yeah, I do a lot of charitable work, and I think those moments, I think to get that woman's reaction, I think to your face, I think that's so beautiful, isn't it? To have that. And you're so right with everything. I think that even as women, we're just conditioned to give, aren't we, all the time? So to be in a space where we know how to receive because we feel worthy and deserving of having it, I think that is the key part, isn't it? For sure. So it's only when you're able to cultivate that safety within yourself to be able to receive without any consequence. I think that's the real gold dust, and maybe that's part of the richness, really, to be honest. But
Yes.
it's been so lovely to speak to you. Like I said, your
Yes.
energy is so velvety and just rich and glorious, which is so nice. So where can people find you?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And it's been beautiful to connect with you. I felt you at my soul, and you're doing some beautiful work. It's coming through me, and I am only giving you the mirror of who you are. That's it. That's it. That's it. You can find me on YouTube at Embodiment is Everything. You can find me on the other social media platforms at Eva Simone Coaching, um, at Embodiment is Everything. And my assistant can also give you some of the other things to make sure that I am not calling some of these things wrong because she handles my marketing part. But I am Eva Simone with Embodiment is Everything. This has been a pleasure. You can find me at embodimenteseverything.com for some of the other beautiful things that we're doing. It has been a pleasure. I thank you so much for having me on. And I want to return. I want to get you on and get you on soon. So we'll be
Yes.
speaking about that in the future because there's some beautiful things that you want to talk about. I could feel it, and I want to be the one who interviews you.
Oh,
So
I love
yes,
that. Thank you
yes.
so much. Well, as a little wrap up, I kind of like to do the soul to soul message. So, based on the conversation or whatever you feel like you need to share right now as your closing statement, please do have the floor.
The one thing that I was feeling as we were both talking is just open up even more. It's okay. It's
Mm,
okay to be a woman. It's okay to do the work that I'm put on the planet to do. It's okay to step in more in the deliciousness of being a woman because one healed woman can heal a community. One
mm,
healed woman can heal a state. One healed woman can do her part in healing the world. And to me, I'm all about that. I step into it. I take the job
Gorgeous.
proudly.
Yes, I love that. Me too.
Yes.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on, and I look forward to talking to you soon.